Welcome to the lesson on the COBRA Purchase Orders program. Before we get into the program, I wanted to show a couple of write-ups to you because the Purchase Orders program is a very simple two-screen program, but its power is in how it integrates with the many different areas of the COBRA programs. As you can see from this list here, the Purchase Orders program integrates with the jobs and job costing area of the system so that you can know instantly what you have ordered and received on the job and what you're waiting for, what's on back order. It also integrates with accounts payable to automate the process of catching overbillings by your suppliers and to set dispute amounts on invoices so that you don't overpay them. It also integrates with the inventory functions of the COBRA programs to replenish on-hand quantities and create price history. And POs can also be created based on reorder levels and reorder quantities. So if you're using the PO functions of the COBRA program along with inventory, then when items get below the reorder level, then we can import lists of materials that you must purchase based on those reorder quantities. The price book area. Regardless of whether you're running inventory or not, you can keep your costs in your price book up to date automatically. And this is a function that can be done while other receiving functions are being done at the same time. In other words, if you're updating your job cost, but you also want your price book updated with its new costs, then COBRA will perform those functions simultaneously, which is really nice. It takes a lot of work out of the monitoring and keeping up with your prices and stuff. Also, estimating. The estimate material list that you can build in COBRA can be imported into the PO program. So whether you want to buy by phase or just line up pricing for the future, all that can be done by using the estimate material list. Now, some of the main powerful features of the purchase order program really are defined in this list as well. You can create bid requests or RFQs for vendors. You can also use what's called the pending status, which allows you to create a PO to lock in pricing and availability for future projects without clogging up your back order list. And this is really nice because it really puts you in control. And so if you've got some really good vendors that you can work with, then this is a great feature. You can also create back order lists based on customized criteria. So for project managers who need to know when materials are due, they can plan their labor based on that. And then you don't have that old deal where the guys are just sitting around waiting for materials. So that's kind of an important feature that we've learned over the years. And not all the time do you want to be able to do this, but you can evaluate a PO material list against past purchases and maybe create new POs based on the results of that. So if you buy different materials from different vendors and you want to be able to take a material list and have it split out to the vendors that you want to buy low cost from or low price from, you can do that using this feature. And if you're also running inventory, there's also the ability to evaluate a material list against your inventory so you know what you have on hand and you don't overbuy what you don't need to based on what you already have on hand. During the receiving process, we can automate the process of adding sales tax to the costs of our items. This is kind of a big one because if you are paying the sales tax when you're buying your materials, we can have that sales tax added to the costs without actually changing the cost of the items in the price book. So that's a real powerful feature. You can also customize a list of notes that you use frequently to communicate important messages to your vendors. You'll see that as we get into the program. But that's kind of nice because a lot of times, your purchasing agent has a common set of notes that he wants to convey to the supplier, and those can be preset. And lastly, each user can control the PO program. They can kind of customize it or set their own controls to use it based on their own functions within your business. So you'll see all that as we get into the program. So here we go. Let me exit to the main Cobra menu, and then I will hotkey into the PO program. So this is what it looks like coming up fresh. Now, the PO program is a standalone program, although it does integrate with your AP on two levels. Your vendor list, if you're using accounts payable, your vendor list is available to you right here as well, so you don't have to create your own vendor list. But also, as you'll see in a subsequent video on AP PO comparisons, the PO program will integrate with accounts payable so that accounts payable can automatically catch over billings. We'll talk about that in a little bit. Now, if you're using purchase orders as a standalone program without the accounts payable, you can set up your vendors right here on this part of the screen very simply. I'm not going to go through that process right now, so you can click into your help system and learn how to set up new vendors. Just type new vendor and you'll get the help topic on how to do that. But what I'm going to do is just select a vendor that I already have on file. So I'm going to type in part of their vendor name, and from this list I'm going to select a vendor. Now, before we actually set up a PO, I do want to show you one important little field called the PO discount percentage field. This is a fairly new feature that we developed in response to a lot of our bigger clients who have really good relationships with some of their vendors. And what this does is allows you to set a discount for this vendor. So anytime you create a PO and you have prices on that PO that come out of your price book or from your estimate or whatever, Cobra will take an additional percentage off of those costs, so that you're telling your supplier that you're taking an additional X percent, 1 or 2% off of what you're actually ordering based on the good relationship that you have with your supplier. Now, before we actually get into purchase orders, I thought I would take you through some of the defaults that we might want to set up. So if we go up to File and then PO Defaults, you will see some defaults that I have set up for this particular station. Remember that each station or each user can control their own defaults. So I wanted to give you kind of a visual as to how I have this one normally set up. And you can see that we're using the auto PO number, so it's using this as a PO number. Now, as we talk about POs, one of the things I hear a lot from people using POs on other programs is that they use the job number as a PO number. And I want you to think about getting away from that, because it's not necessary to do that in Cobra. Certainly, by all means, if you're attached to that logic, you want to use it, go ahead and do that. However, because Cobra attaches the job number to the PO is automatically attached to the job. So it doesn't matter if a job has 16 POs or just one. It will be attached to the job through the job number, as you'll see, that is attached to the PO later on when we set it up. So that convention, you might want to, you can get away from it if you want to and just kind of automate the process of creating POs. Now, as you go down here, you can see a lot of these defaults are set up on this station. Some of them are explained in the help system under system defaults. Some of them are new ones that are pretty obvious. One of the things that I'm going to get to later on in the PO receipting screen are the PO receipting options here, because this part of the options tells Cobra how to handle the receipting process when you start receiving the items. So you'll see more about that later. As I exit here back to the PO Center screen, I'm also going to go into Options and show you a couple of other things here. PO Default Notes. What we're talking about is the ability to have a standard set of notes that we can grab on the fly as we're creating POs. Well, those are built up here under Options, PO Default Notes. You can have many different sets of notes here, with a quick little description that is filled in the drop-down behind here on the main screen. So if you find that you're typing the same thing over and over and over again on your special instructions to your suppliers, consider building them in these notes here and having them available to you at your fingertips. Now I do want to make a note about these notes here, because when you come into a center screen like this, these drop downs are filled, or what we call populated, as you come into the screen. So if you come up and you enter new notes in this default notes, but then you don't see them in the drop down here, simply exit the PO Center and come back in, and you will then see them having been populated into the drop down. That's pretty common throughout all the main center screens. We're trying to save you a lot of work once you get into the screens by not taking up the time to fill these things up all the time. All right, now let's talk about creating a new PO. It's really as simple as coming into this screen, finding your vendor, and then clicking your new button, which will put the cursor over here in the PO date, set your status on the PO to work, which means this is a live working PO. We'll talk about statuses in a little bit. But if all you want to do is quickly just get a PO number because a guy's on the phone, you want to get him his number, you can just click new and then click save, and the PO number will be assigned right here as soon as you click the save button. And then you can give it to the worker while he's on the phone. Well, actually let's do that. We'll save the PO. There's our PO number. Now at this point we can actually customize the PO. We'll come back to it later once we have the time to think about it. But let's talk about some of these fields. I'm going to go through these fields one by one, because as I press enter through here, you'll get to all the critical fields that you might need to as you're creating a new PO. So whether you're coming back to it or you're entering it, everything on the fly, this is how I would recommend doing it. The date required is really an important field because it tells the supplier that you must have this material by a particular date. And the back order lists use that. So your project managers need to know that we're expecting this material by this date, and you can also communicate later to your supplier that you must have this stuff by that date, and to let you know if that isn't possible so that you can make other arrangements. So use that date required. It's a real important feature. Now if you have set up the system as being taxable, your normal tax code would be here, and you wouldn't have to select that it's taxable or select your tax code on the fly. So I would suggest that you do that in your PO defaults if you want your POs to always be taxable. Now here, if we're ordering specifically for a particular job, we can enter or find the job number here. Now I already knew my job number, so I had it waiting for me, and that's my job number. So as I press enter here, what it will do is fill in the job information, drop me down to the ship to, where I can select either the job address, the company address, in other words, you don't want it shipped to the job site, you want it shipped to your company address, or in the case of a quick pickup, you might want to just have it as will call. Somebody's going to go and quickly pick up the item. But because we entered a job here, Cobra's doing some thinking and thinking that maybe you just want it sent to the job address, and that's what appears here then for me. So as I press enter here, some other defaults came in for me from the PO defaults, like my station name and my phone number. So again, this is done by user. If you have particular credit terms with the vendor, they will show up here. Otherwise, you can type them in. Or, as you can see, if you press enter through these fields, if there's something that is required or information that is required as you're pressing enter, Cobra will alert you to that. So you can't goof up as you're doing any entry here. Ship via, you can either type it in or you can use our handy-dandy little list of different ship tos, or continue on from there. How you want freight on board handled, that can be entered in there as well. So again, I'm just pressing enter through these fields. The freight, not everybody negotiates freight. If you do, however, you can enter the freight amount of this PO into the freight field. This can be done now, or it can be done later, once the PO has been sent to the supplier and they've told you what the freight amount can be. Now, it's very important about the freight amount because that's generally the unknown when you're creating POs. And so by putting in negotiated freight amounts here, then Cobra will know later when we're comparing the AP invoice to the PO that this is the freight amount and to take it out of the comparison between what you purchased and what you've been billed against those purchases. Notes. Now this again is that preset list of notes that you could build, and I'm going to select this one. When I press enter on it, it will bring out the 3 lines of notes here. I can actually customize them on the fly just for this PO if I wanted to, but hey, saves you some time. And as I press enter, then Cobra at this point will ask me if I want to save this PO. Notice that the yes is highlighted, the yes button, so I don't even have to pick up my mouse. I can just press enter, and my PO is saved, or in this case, resaved, with all the pertinent information on it. So, when a PO is first created and first saved, the status becomes a work status, which means that this is an actual working PO. If you're creating a PO that is really just a quote, you're just sending it out for quote, you can resave the status as quote, because then any material list related to this PO will not be affecting like back order lists, things of that nature. You can also set a PO as a pending PO, which means it's not really active at the moment. It's not a working PO right now. We're just lining up future purchases. Okay, so you're locking in availability, you're locking in pricing, especially in today's volatile market. This seems to be a bigger and bigger feature that people have requested. So pending POs as well just gives you more control without clogging up your back order lists. Excellent. So, before we get into the details, I want to bring your eyes down to the bottom left of the screen, the totals area, because we've just set up our PO right now, and there are many different ways that we can find this PO, as you'll see later. But as we build our material list, our PO material list, these numbers will be always in sync with what we're doing, and then later on, as we receipt off the PO, this information will fill in for us automatically as well. So I'm going to click the details button, which is really the second screen of the 2 screens of the PO system. So at this point, what Cobra is going to do is allow me to create my PO material list. Now, if you're using other areas of the program, you can automate the process of creating your PO material list by using some of the many imports. So I'm going to select import items from the import menu option at the top of the PO detail screen. And from here, I can set this so that I can draw items from many different sources, like previous jobs. Maybe you're doing jobs that are very similar. You do Wendy's jobs, for example. You could pull in a material list from a prior job or from an estimate. Let's say I want to pull in something from the estimate that I did for this job, for example. I could do that. I'm not actually going to do that, but I'll kind of show you how it works because it's really cool. Or if I wanted to pull in a PO list onto this one from a previous one, I could do that too. So there are a lot of different things you can do once you begin using the PO system. Once you have a material list loaded on the screen here, it's not really imported into Cobra yet until you tell it to be imported. So if you wanted to buy for a particular page or phase of the job instead of for the whole job all at once, you can select just the items that you want to purchase right at this moment based on the page or the phase of the job. Obviously I don't have any here, but use that as a guideline if you are estimating and breaking out your job into different phases or what we call pages. Use that as a guideline for ordering as well. It's pretty cool. Now if I were to click import, it would actually import those items right onto my PO screen. Let's do that. Now when I exit, I will see all those items, but then I can also add more items or just manually add items either way. So you can use imports or do things manually or use both of those features. Okay? What I actually want to do is just kind of get rid of these. Just wanted to show you how to import them. and I'm gonna create my PO list manually. And it starts down here in the entry and edit fields beneath the screen here. Now the first thing you'll notice is this type thing. I want to explain this because this has a lot to do with the flexibility of the program. Now when we set up this PO, we said we were going to be ordering for a job, this job in particular. So this J here was defaulted for me thinking or anticipating that I'm ordering particularly for a job. And as you can see from the tooltip there, the I means that I'm ordering for inventory. The P means I'm ordering just to track against the PO itself. I'm not ordering for any other particular destination at all. I'm just ordering and I'm going to be tracking the items on the PO itself. So the two common are the I and the J, which means that we're presetting the destination for these items. They're going to go to a job or they're going to go to an inventory. So this controls that, first of all, and then the particular job or the particular inventory would be selected in these fields here. Now as I click back into the job number, I'm going to press enter through these fields because as I manually create my PO list, I can tell it, again, where the item is supposed to go, what phase of the job, what page, and you've got your phase lookups right here, your page lookups right here. If I were ordering for an inventory, then I could select the actual inventory code that I'm ordering for right here, or that could have been predetermined through the imports from our inventories. But to keep this simple, I'm going to show you how to create your list manually. You can use all of your price book lookups to create your list. So as I come into my price book lookup, I can select something from my price book. I double click on it to get it onto the screen, and as I press enter, I can even make notes about this particular item so that my supplier knows a particular important piece of information about this item. Now as I press enter through here, I'm going to answer some of these fields here. Now this is important. The unit of measure is important because that tells Cobra how you're purchasing this item. So some items you buy each, some items you buy based on hundreds or thousands. So this unit of measure helps you determine, or helps Cobra determine, the pricing based on the unit of measure. So if we select E for each, which means that each unit will be priced individually, that is how your price book is set up actually, then it will go out and grab the unit price from the price book and use it to calculate by the ordered quantity here. If, however, we're saying that we normally buy this item in hundreds, as you'll see in a moment for half-inch EMT, for example, then what Cobra will do is consider your order quantity first, multiply it by the unit of measure. So 1 here becomes 100 because you're buying it 1 unit at a time. And 1 unit here equals 100 feet, or 100 of them. So to say that a different way, your unit of measure becomes the first consideration for each item. So you want to ask yourself, how do I normally buy this from my supplier? I normally buy it on an each level, or hundreds level, or thousands level. And this unit of measure will show up on the purchase order. So if I select each here, then my unit price is just for each individual item that I'm buying, and the order quantity also is for each rather than representing 100. I'll show you when I do a half-inch EMT. Let me get through this one first. Okay, so this is my unit price coming out of my price book for this item. I could change it on the fly if I wanted to. Now there's my job markup. Now in this case, my job was set up as a cost plus job, so you're seeing the markup for cost plus there. Otherwise, you will see individual markups for individual items as they were set up from the price book. Again, my order quantity. How many am I ordering? And again, it's based on unit of measure. So if I'm buying 100 of these, then 100 times each equals really 100. It's only 100. So then my ordered amount here is multiplied again by the unit of measure times the ordered quantity times my unit price. Make sense? Hopefully the visual is doing better than my explanation here. Now I'm not going to worry about the receipting amounts stuff right now. I'll show you how to receipt later. So I'm just going to press enter and save this item. Now it's on the screen. Now let's take half-inch EMT for an example, so I can do a better job of explaining the unit of measure for you. I normally buy half-inch EMT in hundreds, so I'm going to select C there. And my unit price per each is usually 49 cents. So my order quantity now is 100, or my unit of measure equaling 100 times my order quantity. So my order quantity at this point really represents 100. And so the ordered amount has been multiplied, the unit of measure times the ordered quantity times the unit price equals this. If I'm ordering 200, it would be 2 here. And so again, that unit of measure is used to know how to treat the order quantity. I'm going to save that item as well. Now I can also hand enter stuff that isn't in my price book, or if you want to just do a lot fixture package, you can enter something on the fly as such. Because in this case, you're not as interested in receiving individual quantities as you are just tracking the amounts that you received. So as you'll see when we do receipting later. Okay, so we used our price book. We could have imported items. We manually entered items. A lot of flexibility here. So before I do any receipting, I want to exit out of here back to the main PO center screen and show you what has happened. First of all, you can see down at the bottom left, the totals have been entered in here. Even the tax has been calculated on here, so you know how much tax to anticipate. So if you have a price book where you've got your supplier updating your prices periodically, creating POs off of a price update service, or a price book using a price update service, makes a lot of sense, because you're telling the supplier, hey, these are the prices that you're giving me, these are what I anticipate paying. Or if you've done an import off of an estimate where you've already predetermined what you expect to pay, that's great too. So let's take a look at this purchase order. I'm going to preview it on screen. And because my PO default says that I do want to show prices on here, that's why I have them on here. If I were to print a bid request at this point, it would not have any prices on here. So is based on what you want to do at this point with this particular PO. But I wanted to give you a visual, because you can see all the stuff is created for you. Each individual item coming out of the price book has both the vendor's trade number and vendor part number as a reference, so that they can't say, well, we weren't sure what you were ordering, you know, that kind of thing. So we do include that there. And as I scroll to the bottom, you can see several things. You can see the subtotal, tax, the total on the PO, and even your special instructions. Pretty cool. I'm going to exit out of here for the moment. And I'm going to hotkey over to the job. So I'm going to press F11. Go into Job Center. And bring up the job that we've been working with here. Now this is a brand new job with a budget, and I want to direct your eyes to the lower right of the screen. And I'm circling a couple of things here that I think you're going to like here. This committed PO dollars, that's what you have on order for this PO that you have not received yet. So this committed dollars, a lot of people use this to create a down payment invoice based on what they've had to order to get the job started or the next phase of the job started. It's a great It's a great feature. Now you will see later on this job that as you receive the items to the job, the committed dollars becomes decreased or decreases, and the PO dollars to job increases. And we can always track exactly all the items that have been posted to the job through POs, because when we come into the material screen, I don't have any material on this job, but I did want to show you something that you can look for later on. This is the purchase order number column. So if an item is receipted to the job through POs, you can find it here real quickly by using this lookup and this column. As I exit back, you can also see in the POs tab any POs that you have on file for this job. So it doesn't matter how many there are, it doesn't matter if they're quotes or pending or whatever. This will show you every one of them. And as you probably already know, you can use your preview button, take a look at the PO, print it out, whatever you need to do. Everything's at your fingertips. And that is the integration that we have between the PO and the Job Center. I could also double click on this PO here in this POs tab, get right over to PO Center, take a detailed look at this, and do whatever I need to. So now that we're back at the PO screen, again, we're going to watch our totals. We could create or print what's called a bid request by clicking this bid button. We can preview or print the PO. You could also print a fax or email the PO directly out of Cobra. And as long as the PO remains in a work status, you also have things like your back order list. So you can see what's on back order as of a certain date, so that you can give these lists to your different project managers. So although I don't have a lot of materials on this list, I could sort it by job number, so I can just grab a list of all the materials by job number, print them out individually, send them over to the project manager in charge of the job so they know when to expect in these materials, plan their labor around that. It's all pretty cool stuff. Now, this ends the lesson on creating a purchase order.